Hi, and welcome to Let's Talk Change. I'm Lisa Blanchette, a change strategist and leadership coach, and I've had the opportunity to support teams and organizations through change for more than 20 years. And in life and work, it is really easy to get excited and inspired about the possibilities of something new. And in an organization, that could look like, a new product line, being first to market on a brand new idea. Maybe it's the introduction of a new innovation strategy or a learning mindset strategy. Hey, and these days it's also probably either beginning or taking the next step in a transformation journey. And don't get me wrong, it is really, really important to understand and have a clear vision for where you want to take your organization. What's that journey and that adventure you want to take your team on? And, that vision, that's what helps figure out, what's this thing going to cost? What's the technology I need to enable this vision? And those are the things that end up in the business case. But the things that are often missed when we think about a business case is actually really getting clarity on how you, and perhaps you yourself, the one leading it, and the others, what does it actually mean for this change to be successful? Gaining this clarity around the success is really an important part of that kind of upfront strategy planning. It's, something that should be considered as part of your overall organizational strategy, but it's also definitely something to think about when you're thinking about people strategy. And, one of the things that's really important for me in this space is to, before you're even really digging into a kickoff or any of those things from a project perspective, is to take the time to stop and ask each member of your leadership team, what does success look like? So what really gets better when this project is completed? And then it's, equally important to just sit back and listen and to really take in what each member of the team is sharing, because, that's not what shows up in the business case, right? The business case is full of stats, it's financials, it's the investment in this piece of technology or perhaps this investment in a program. But when you sit back and you listen to how each individual leader is describing what gets better, that's the things that you need to listen to and figure out how you're going to bring that to life. Because that's the thing that's almost always about what's going to be different with the people in the organization. Let me share an example of this with you. So during COVID, I had the opportunity to work with an organization that was introducing MS Teams. And this particular project was led by the IT director. And the project really came down to the fact that they had been using Skype, and Skype was end-of-life technology, and so they needed something to replace it because they needed to continue to have that telecommunication, that ability to have, as we all did during COVID, to connect with each other remotely. And so when you looked at, what was the reason for this, what was in the business case, it was very much around replacement of this old technology so that we could, as an organization, say that there was something new that we were going to be able to use going forward. But things got mucky and things got clearer as I started to talk to the various members of the leadership team. And I did just ask them, so with the introduction of MS Teams, what's going to get better? What does that success look like for you? And in those discussions, one of the leaders said, for them, success is it's an on-time implementation, right? It is, minimal to no defects. We've managed our security risks. And another leader said, though, that, with MS Teams, this means that there's going to be increased collaboration between my teams. And for his teams, they were across multiple geographies, and they were across, functionally across different departments. And, right away, when you hear what the leaders are saying, you can see that they're not aligned on what success looks like. And, in this case, it's not as though they are completely opposite in what they see as success and what they see as outcomes. But they're certainly different enough that it's going to be a different kind of approach that you would take to a project like this. If we just considered the leader that said this is all about, defects and security and making sure we have a replacement for Skype, this would have really been a project focused on technology, focused on delivery dates. But when you think about what some of the other leaders were saying and how they saw this being truly a tool and truly something that was going to enable their teams to do things, it meant that, we needed to take a bit of a step back and see that some of the things that were different and could be in this kind of scenario is that it's about having different kind of stakeholder engagement up front. It's about involving those teams that do use Skype today and will use MS Teams tomorrow. It's helping understand what's that translation? How did you do something in one tool versus another? Helping that individual team be able to figure out, well, what do they maybe need to change on their own, some of their internal processes? That might be that they need to, there are perhaps emails and invites that need to be changed. There's communication to their customers. And that's really, it's just one example of what would be different when you have a different outcome that you're driving towards. But some of the other things that are really important to think about is that when, there's an acceptance or there's an assumption that success on this project is get it done by March 1st and, make sure that it's a working product. And the decisions that you make along the way in both planning and execution are very different. How you make those decisions and who makes those decisions. All of those things are very different depending on that outcome that you're working towards. And when you have, 2, 3, 4 leaders that are not aligned on that, that all trickles down to, within the project team, that the project team is then running into conflict or running into difference of opinion that is then perhaps spinning or spiraling into other conversations that maybe didn't need to happen, if we had taken the time up front to be very clear on what these outcomes were. And after all, in this kind of example, MS Teams, they're an enabler. It's a piece of technology, right? But Teams alone is not going to be what really increases collaboration. It's really not going to be the thing that makes this shift in the way that we work together. True collaboration really is about individuals changing their habits and behaviors. It requires, a level of trust between the individuals, but also between the individuals and the technology that they're using. But also, collaboration means that we need leadership support. We need leaders to show us what that looks like. And we need to make sure that this is something that's led from a people perspective, because at the end of the day, it is that you are asking me and all of my peers to do something differently, to work differently. And that's going to take a different amount of time and a different approach as well. So, if you're not sure what your leaders think success looks like for the project that you're working on, it's time to take the time to find out. And if I can help in any way, please feel free to reach out. Take care.